Tea and Style with Gabby Eckert, where we'll meet courageous women who are chasing their dreams and answer their style questions over a cup of tea. I have an amazing, amazing woman with me today that I just love. She is one of my styling clients, a member in the Brave and Beautiful Women membership. So guys, I was just dying to introduce her to you because she's so much fun. She began bead weaving when she was a young teen. She is a business owner and a Master Artisan with Pennsylvania Guild of Craftsmen and the Haverford Guild of Craftsmen. Christine, I also love that you believe jewelry should go well beyond special occasions, which is one of the reasons why you love beadwork. Will you spill the tea, my friend? Tell us a bit more about yourself and your beautiful, beautiful work.
Sure, happy to. Thanks for having me. So I'm a bead weaver. So basically I take thousands of teeny tiny little beads and I sew them all together into different patterns and shapes for different types of jewelry. I do everything from beaded scarves where it looks a lot like fabric, all the way to silly things like I just recently completed a set of bunnies with carrots. They're little teeny tiny beaded bunnies with carrots. So, because I think that jewelry should be something that you wear because you want to, not because you feel like you're obligated to. So I kind of have a tag-ish line, everything from fun to formal. So you can wear jewelry to dress up and look great at that event, or something that's super unique, or you can wear something just goofy and fun that, beaded tacos. Why not? And yes, I've beaded tacos now. So.
Oh my gosh, my friend, you are so funny. I love that jewelry accessorizing can really take our outfits to the next level. It can give us that added detail. It can really be a conversation piece, and it could be a great way to show your personality. So you guys, when I was styling Christine, I think I even told her this during the session, like, this is so fun because it was like a treasure trove. I felt like Ariel in her grotto with like treasures of just beautiful, beautiful handmade beadwork pieces that were just beautiful. I also bought my mom a pair of earrings from Christine, and she just, my God, got over it, like loves them. But it really does do something to an outfit. It shows intentionality and personality, which is so fun. So tell us, Christine, a lesson that you learned through either beadwork or your life or business. We'd love to hear it.
It's the crazy bit is that there are so many lessons that always can be learned, no matter what it is that you're doing. It's hard to pick just one because honestly, the reason why I've been able to get to where I'm at is because I've had to learn an awful lot of lessons. It's a never-ending process. Right. But I guess one of the key ones that I would say to anybody who wants to start out trying anything or taking any risk is never be afraid to make a mistake. Mistakes are one of the most important parts in fact, it's not the most important part of the learning process. You're going to screw up a million times. I mean, I've done, I can't tell you the number of times I've been in the middle of like a beaded scarf, which they're not small, by the way, they're really big. Mm-hmm. And I've had to rip out rows and rows. By the time I'm done, I have a stack of beads and they're all messed up and they're not sorted. But the thing is that what I learned from going through that process and not giving up, and what I learned from being willing to be wrong, is so much more valuable than if I were always right. If I never messed up, I wouldn't be as good as I am at what I do, and I certainly wouldn't be a terribly creative person, because creative people have to screw up all the time. Version 52 is sometimes your best version. You kind of have to go with it. And even years after I thought I've mastered one pattern, I'll go back and go, oh, this could be slightly better. So again, it's like, you don't hold on to it because you did it that one time long ago. You say, yeah, and I can improve this. I'm allowed to be wrong sometimes. So Do
Mm,
not be afraid of failure, because failure is actually your friend,
yes.
which is something that I think people are afraid of. They're afraid to fail. They're like, oh my God, I've
Afraid
screwed
of
this up.
failure. They are afraid of failure. And I love what you're saying because failure is our greatest teacher. And, I see that even just in my daughter as she's learning and she's not going to get things right perfectly. And I don't know where we as adults got this idea that we have to be perfect all the time or be like the best at something all of the time. Like we came out of the womb we should know this stuff, right? Like it should just be transplanted into our brains or something. But actually, it's a process, and every single one of those failures is taking us closer and closer to our goal, our final product, into growing into the women that we want to be. And I love that you decided to share that with us with one of your
Well,
lessons.
and here's the crazy thing about it. It's not the fact that you failed that's important. That's actually inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you do with it.
That's
If
right.
if you fail and then everything stops, then you don't have a lot of, then you're not going to learn from it. When my daughter got her first F, she thought it was the end of the world. She was devastated. She was like, but I failed. And I said, good. And she's like, what? And I said, I'm glad you got your first F before you hit junior high school,
Right.
because now you're going to learn how to deal with it.
That's right. Oh, that's good.
And then as you move forward, if you have it again, it's not going to be a shock to the system, and you're going to know what to do about it. I feel for people who get their first F in college. It's a horrific experience if you've never had one.
That's
So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's like, and it's not just in what I do is in terms of me being a bead weaver or an artist. It's in everything. It's like you should really just not be afraid to fail, but you should absolutely learn how to deal with that failure and learn how to make that failure work for you. You know, I like to tell my daughter that your grades are not the end of the world. What they are is that tells us what you need to learn and where you need to work on it and where your best areas of improvement are. That's all they are.
so good.
It's
Oh,
not, it's
great,
not
great
like,
wisdom you're passing on to your daughter. That's awesome, Christine. And oh, that's such an important lesson to learn at such a young age. And I heard someone say fail forward, which was really, really like, a quick way of kind of reminding myself similarly to what you're saying. It's what you're doing with that failure. What are you getting out of it? How are you growing? And oh, so incredibly good. You guys, see, I told you, you had to meet Christine. She's incredible. If you don't know, like when Christina's talking about her pieces, like specific pieces that she's mentioning, I'm going to link her website on the bottom so that you can have an idea of what she's talking about. Like when you were saying the scarves, you guys have to check them out. Like she was saying how she had all these beads. Guys, she had all the beads.
yeah.
Christine, how many beads do you think are in a scarf? Like roundabouts, maybe?
Oh,
You know?
um, every now and again I count.
No way.
Curiosity. Well, it's a math problem, and I use most of my patterns. I map out on a computer, and so I found a kind of a cheater's way of counting, but I would say on average anywhere between 10 and 30,000 beads, depending on the design, because my scarves vary in terms of pattern and the number of beads I throw in. I actually have a scarf that I've started.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness.
So
Yes.
yeah. So
Oh.
I didn't map this one out on the computer, so I'd have to actually do math to figure it out. So that's not going to be there for a while.
I love it. But oh, your pieces are so beautifully and made, and just I could tell so skillfully crafted, and your creativity really shines through. And which I loved when I found out that what you wanted to ask me today. So go ahead and ask me your style question, Christine.
Well, and I think full disclosure, the
Uh-huh.
reason why I hired Gabby, by the way, is because other than jewelry, my sense of style is pretty weak. I'm just one of those people that, I don't have an amazing sense of style. But one of the things Gabby and I have in common is that we work with a lot of color. My jewelry goes well beyond the silver and gold aspect because I use lots and lots of colors. And I wanted to ask, why are people so afraid of color? That it's like, we've talked about going to business meetings where everyone's in beige or black or brown, and the one oddball, usually me, who walks in with like a bright red something, stands out. And so I don't understand why people are so scared of color.
I love it. I think that your question is fantastic. And yes, this was like a bonding time for me and Christine because she does incorporate such beautiful color palettes in her work. And we also worked to incorporate some of those colors in her wardrobe, and it was a lot of fun. But I think ultimately there's a few reasons why people are afraid of color. And one of them is that they're very intimidated. You mentioned the sea of neutrals. That's what I love to call it. Go into a networking event, going anywhere, especially where we live, where Christine and I live, our world is a sea of neutral. People love their nudes, their grays, their navies, their blacks, their grays, like whites. They're just everywhere. And so people are intimidated, although they may love a color. Like, let's say someone loves the color right now, Pantone's color of the year, Viva Magenta. Maybe they love that color. They're so excited about it, but they're intimidated to wear it because everybody else around them is stuck in their neutrals. And so they feel that if they wear it, that they're going to seem really loud, or almost like this is more of a mindset kind of work that I think needs to happen, because why not stand out in a sea of neutrals? Ask yourself, why are you always trying to blend in? If you love color and you're choosing to play it small or play it safe or blend in, ask yourself why. Because I feel like when you probe a little bit deeper in there, you may discover some things about yourself that could help you even in other areas, not just style. I like sometimes how style can kind of reflect what's happening on the inside, and this could be one of those issues as well. Why not stand out in a sea of neutrals when you're running a business or when you're building a brand? Because I tell you what, you show up in a fire color like red and everybody else is in black and tan, you are standing out. People want to come and say hi to you. There is a whole psychology to color. It evokes emotion, it brings life. It makes you happy. There's different colors that evoke different forms of emotion, which you can leverage as a business owner when you're communicating your messaging.
Well, and I think a lot of it too, it comes down to being memorable.
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
one of those things that, I have two businesses because, why not? It's amazing.
Why not? Life's crazy enough. Add another business to it.
I have some free time this weekend. I think I'm going to
start a new business. Love it.
But I do think that, that I completely agree with it. I think a lot of it is people are afraid that they're going to be noticed too much, or noticed for reasons that they think might be wrong. And because I see it too, because the jewelry that I sell is not traditional. Mm-hmm. So I see that, and I see where, there's some people that they'll come in to my booth, because I mostly sell at craft shows. I sell online, but I also sell at these high-end craft shows. And I see people who kind of go, it's like, oh, well, I don't know. And it's like, they're like, it's not really silver, is it? And I'm like, well, there's silver in it, but it's because it's different, and it's because it's something that they're not used to and they're not comfortable with. But the reality is that when you put yourself out there, and it doesn't matter if you're an employee or a business owner, you need to be remembered.
That's right.
And if they go, well, oh yeah, that's right, you're the person with the crazy long blonde hair who showed up in bright red. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, you're the person with the really funny logo. Mm-hmm. Or you're the person who wore that amazing scarf, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Being memorable is important. And And as an employee, it's important to be memorable too, because when you're an employee inside of a company, you're also in a weird sort of way a small business owner, because you own that job, you provide a service to your employer, and you want them to think of you positively.
Yes, absolutely. You're still branding yourself. All of this is branding. And I have two practical reasons too, Christine, that I hear all the time. And one of them is I don't want to look washed out. I could not wear that because it washes me out. When in fact, black, which is what everyone always opts for, is actually very harsh and it tends to wash you out the most. Listen, I love black. Hello, I'm always wearing black, but I'm also layering it with a warm color because my undertone is warm. So really just a remedy to that is to really know your undertone, know if you have a cool, warm, or neutral undertone, and then picking colors that work within your palette. So if you have a warm undertone, picking warm colors to put near your face, and you won't look washed out, no worries. And hey, dare I say, if you're warm and you want to wear cool because you love it, go for it. Just add some blush. There you go. You're not going to look washed out. But if you're someone who really wants to know their power colors, someone who wants to know the colors that are really meant for them and helps their skin glow, you're definitely going to want to stick within your undertone palette. And then the last one I got to say is that people are afraid of not pairing colors correctly.
Yes, I see that too.
Yeah. Like, does this match? Does this go? Like, they have this little box and they are afraid to play. And I think that's one of the beauties of color, is that you can play with different color palettes, whether the color palette is cool or warm, whether they work harmoniously together. And this is something that Christine is very gifted in, and we had a lot of fun creating and looking at different palettes, jewel toned palettes, and really learning how I was even challenged by some of the palettes that Christine had in her vision board. I was like, ooh, I'm inspired by this. Like, I didn't think to put these two together, but oh, I love the vibe.
Kind of tripping the light, fantastic.
Yeah. I was like, look, first of all, is vibe a thing? Are we too old to say vibe?
I don't know. I just assume. I'm too old to say everything.
I'm like, honey, isn't that a thing these young kids are saying? I don't know. I look, anyway, it felt like a vibe to me. And I'm like, oh, I need to go find this color and pair it together because I loved it from her vision board. So learning how to pair colors and having that freedom to play and not be afraid to fail. You might put colors together like we started in the beginning of our conversation and they look horrible together, and that's okay. Hey, you know, for next time, maybe you keep playing and trying different things that you end up loving, that you never would put together.
And I think it's really important to remember too that, you know, the colors, your eyeballs are great blenders. So when you put two colors next to each other, your eyes are going to, because like you said, okay, if you love cool colors, but you need warm undertones, put on some blush. What that blush is doing, it is blending the colors to prevent that washout effect. So when you're putting colors together in a wardrobe or on your, you know, if you decided to wear a colored necklace, like I get people who come in, they'll come in sometimes and be like, oh, I really want to buy this because I've got this formal event, but I don't have the dress watch with me. And I'm like, why do you need the dress watch? And they're like, but what if it doesn't match? And I said, because you've got skin here and fabric here, and then usually there's another color here, and it's going to break it up. So if it's close, it's going to look like a tone. Because your eyes are going to assume, and the light is going to reflect that, oh, this works together because it's close enough. You know, the other thing is like, if you really love that magenta, that is the color of the year. Which I think is so funny that we're talking about being afraid of color, and of all the colors to be brave about, that's up there in the bravery.
I love it. I'm literally eyeing up a asymmetrical shirt that's all the trends, and I don't usually buy into a lot of trends, but it's got the asymmetrical neckline, which is trending, and that color, and I'm like, oh, I think I want it.
Yeah. But if you're one of those people where you're nervous about it, then, you know, there's a lot you can do with magenta. You'd be surprised how much magenta loves to play and reflect with other colors. So you can pair magenta with if you want to go colder, you can pair it with like a deeper purple, or you can light yourself on fire and pair it with orange.
Yes.
Yes. Because it will behave differently depending on, it's a super strong color, but it will behave differently compared to what's next to it. I do this all the time with beads where, one of the ways I can actually, some of my pieces blend colors with beads. Beads are not a medium that typically blend because they're solid. But there's a trick, and the trick is actually based on a painting technique called pointillism.
Oh.
Pointillism is, and if you've ever seen Sunday in the Park with George, pointillism, okay? It's painted with a million tiny dots, but there's a limited number of colors that the artist used. He just decided that in order to blend the colors, he would put 2 dots of 2 different colors next to each other, and your eyes do all the work. So I do the same thing with beads, where I will create a gradient or an ombre simply by putting beads next to each other and letting the eyes do all of the blending. And that's the sort of thing that you can do with pretty much anything.
I love it.
And that's where it's another one of those things where it's like, it's like, okay, if you stand out, yeah, that's good. It's a good thing.
That's right. And you know what? I love it, because I had to bring Christine on here because look, the women that I bring on here are women that are pursuing their dreams. They're courageous. I love the lesson you shared about not being afraid to fail, and I hope we've encouraged some women to get out some color in their wardrobe and to start playing around and seeing what colors make them feel their best and feel good and empowered. And I hope that they go check out some amazing pieces, because your work is just so beautiful. Christine, can you tell them how they can connect with you?
Sure.
Where they can find you?
My website is prettyshinybeads.com. Because, they're pretty, they're shiny, there's a whole lot of beads. I'm also on Facebook. You can just type in Pretty Shiny Beads, you'll find me there. I'm on Instagram. And you even look up hashtag Pretty Shiny Beads. You'll see all the stuff I post on Instagram. And so those are the best ways to get a hold of me. But if you want to see my stuff in person, the best thing you can do is check out my events page. Mm-hmm. All the shows that I'm going to are listed there. And you can always find me at any of those shows. So those are the best ways to connect with me.
Absolutely. So incredibly fun. Go check out those events, because you will love meeting Christine in person and getting to see all her pieces. Thank you all for joining us for tea today. If you like this episode, please subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications, invite your friends to have tea with us next time. The more the merrier. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.